Hi folks, I am Devok and welcome to the Artificers Guild, the home of all things Artifact. Are you ready for the first ever Artifact tier list? Well, I hope so, because here it is. Now, let me explain before we get into things. A tier list analyses a particular meta, and then places heroes in different categories depending on how strong or weak they are. So, exactly what are these categories? Well, let me tell you. A is your average. It is your center point. It is the middle of all things. This is where your averagely decent heroes go. Using these won't be a problem, and they'll probably make up the large proportion of decks. Moving down to B are your slightly less than average heroes. You might have to pick one or more cards to play around them, but they're otherwise pretty decent. C is when we're starting to get into the realms of obscure heroes that you really have to build an entire composition around to really make use of. And then D is basically the trash tier. These are either completely useless heroes or usually reserved for the worst hero in the current meta. Moving up the scale into A+. A+ is for the heroes that aren't really OP, but they're definitely better than your average hero. Then S is your OP scale. These are likely the one or two best heroes in the current meta. And then hopefully we never have to use it, but S+ is for those game-breaking heroes that if you don't have them in your deck, you're just going to lose the game. Now, while I might have a decent grasp of Artifact, there are certainly people out there who have a better grasp of the PAX Artifact meta. And who better than someone who has slain the White Dragon himself, Dabakab. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, for those of you who don't know, Dabakab, he did go to PAX, went through the Gauntlet, and ended up beating the White Dragon himself. But that's not all you do. Let the artificers out there know a little bit about yourself.
I have started a brand spanking new Artifact channel because I think Artifact has the potential to be incredibly popular and like a major success in the gaming world. And furthermore, I am personally very interested in it. So I have started an Artifact channel, which you can check out. Just type in Artifact Dabakab or some version of that on YouTube, and I'm sure you'll find me. And I do commentary videos.
Well, yeah, we'll have a card up for Dab in the top right corner, and of course down the links below. So please go check him out, sub, say hi, etc. So without further ado, let's get straight into the tier list. And usually you want a tier list to start with a nice A hero, something that really sets the mold. But I'm going to break the mold on my first pick, which is Axe, and I'm going to put Axe in A because I don't think he's overpowered. I think he's quite balanced. Go, tell me.
You think he's balanced. So one of the cool things about Axe is, regardless of how strong or weak he is, his card itself is just so vanilla. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
He doesn't have a passive. His passive is stats. So he's sort of like the hallmark against which all other red heroes will be judged. That being said, I personally would say that Axe is probably a little bit better than average, especially among red heroes, because like Axe doesn't really have any problems. I mean, he's got the biggest body in the game. So right off the bat, we've got a strong showing. Secondly, his premier card is, in my opinion, pretty decent. You know, the best body in the game combined with a pretty good spell. I consider him to be probably A+.
So going into this, my whole argument was, yes, Axe has got a good body, and everyone thinks he's OP because he's pretty unstoppable. But one Visceral Nasal Goo or with Skyrest passive, he's got no armor. He's basically a creep now. And I also, so that made him on the boundary of A+A. And Berserker's Call, I don't think was quite as good as everyone was giving it credit for. So you know what? I'm actually going to give in on this one, and I am going to move Axe up to that A+.
Well, I mean, and also as we go down further and further into the other heroes, like particularly who's coming up next, I see on the list.
Well, let's stay on that theme, and let's talk about Bristleback. Now, he shuts down Axe, which a lot of people were sort of relying on Axe to get them through a lot of their games, I feel like, at PAX. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put Bristleback in that A+ spot alongside Axe, because I think just because of the way he plays in this meta, he's so good at shutting down those big tanky heroes, which were really prominent at PAX.
Bristleback is a force of nature. He has like lower base stats than Axe, but he's got so much attack and so much health that in some ways it just kind of feels like he has comparable or even in some ways better stats than Axe. And of course with his passive, his armor can get really high. The thing I struggle with Bristleback though is his premier spell it's okay. It's the
I think it's very situational.
Kind of
like in this meta particularly. I think it was pretty strong, but in the more open beta where you've got a lot more options and I guess big bodies aren't necessarily the only way to win, I think Visceral Nasal Goo will probably be negligible.
Well, one thing I do like about Bristleback is he kind of strikes, in my opinion, a nice balance between offense and defense, in the sense that like he's got some of the highest attack in the game, and everything else about his card is really defensive between the high health and the armor. So he's like, he's super hard to kill, especially if you stack up his passive. So I kind of like how you got a tank with an offensive component, because it makes him a little bit more all around useful as opposed to super specialized. So that's one thing I like about him, is that you're not all in towards one style of play. He's both offensive and defensive, which I kind of dig.
Definitely. But if you did really need some defense to boost up that Bristleback, there are other heroes out there that can complement him. For example, Chen, our next hero. So Chen, I wasn't really wowed by him at PAX. Moving into PAX, when we had Chen released, or revealed rather, I was pretty hyped by him. I thought his passive, the ability to take enemy creeps, was really cool, because some of the enemy creeps we saw, like Thunderhide Pack, that's a huge swing if you can take one over. But I don't think I ever saw that happen at PAX, because you've got a 4-turn cooldown, there's no creep for 10 to take over. So I really think that part of his kit is going to be really hard to utilize. And Hand of God felt like a bit of a weak version of Divine Purpose. So I actually put Chen in C. I don't know where you want to put him.
Oh, well, so I'm gonna disagree with you entirely about the Hand of God Divine Purpose. I found Hand of God to be way more useful than Divine Purpose. Hand of God is like a massive 1-turn swing. Like, you're either losing or you're like evenly matched, and then you play Hand of God and suddenly you're winning the lane. You heal up all of your heroes, gives you damage immunity, so you're not going to be losing anything in this lane. Whereas Divine Purpose kind of feels like a win more card to me.
Right, yeah.
In the sense that, like, if you're up against Legion Commander and some other creeps in the lane, and you've got one dude in your lane and you play Divine Purpose, it's like, sure, that guy's not dying, but I mean, it's not going to make any difference. It's not.
Everything else around you is going to die, and your tower's going to crumble behind you. One man can't stop an entire army.
And then you're stuck. And then you're stuck in the lane you just lost. So, in my opinion, Hand of God is way more useful than Divine Purpose. I like the swing potential. And I like that it doesn't really have a downside, whereas Divine Purpose does. That being said, I'm not trying to say that Chen is super strong.
Yeah, so where would you see Chen then, with this big swing mechanic?
Overall, if we're just focusing entirely on the PAX meta, then I agree. There just weren't enough really big creatures. There was essentially Ogre Conscript, the Reptile Convoys, and I mean, what else was big? The occasional Thunderhide Alpha, but we really didn't see a lot of those. So yeah, I didn't see Chen's get a whole lot of mileage out of that passive. So I would probably, I think I could agree with your C.
Let's say we agree with him going there. Now, I've got another slightly controversial one here, which I've heard a lot of people really bigging up Crystal Maiden recently, but I also think that you've got to play entirely around her. So I also have her down with Chen in C. So that you can see it as a stark contrast here. Divok, you've put all of the red heroes in A+, and all of the castery blue and green heroes in C. What's going on? Well, it's not always going to be like that, and I think Crystal Maiden, because you basically have to put her in lane 3 to get the maximum use out of her. So you're already constricting yourself to, well, this is my lane 3 hero. And then on top of that, her premier card is pretty good. You can use it early to help you get through, but it's not the hardest hitting. Like I said, her passive, you really have to build to make use of it, because otherwise you just sort of, where did this other 2 mana come from? Well, I've already used all of my mana, and now I've got 2 mana left to do something with, but there aren't that many 2 mana cards. What am I going to do? It was a little lackluster for me.
All right. So if we just, in my opinion, if we evaluate Crystal Maiden as like a, how does she perform in any random deck that runs blue, she's probably not going to do that well. But I think that if you run her in the decks that want her, she could be actually quite powerful. I really like her passive. I really like her spell. I think a free kind of sort of Selemene's Favor in each lane is phenomenal. I mean, it's not exactly Selemene's Favor because it doesn't increase your max mana, but 2 extra mana to play around with can be super huge, especially in like heavy blue decks. And on top of that, I actually really liked Frostbite. I found it to be quite useful, quite powerful. I mean, with blue spells, you're dealing with these massive, huge, game-changing board states. But I really like having some flexibility with blue, some sort of like cheap, low-cost spells that you can use to slow down the board. That's what blue wants to do. Like this is what I love about Crystal Maiden. She's so good about helping blue do what blue wants to do. Blue wants to slow down the board, which she helps do with Frostbite. She wants to stop damage, which again she helps do with Frostbite. And blue wants to cast a lot of spells, which she helps do with her passive. I think but if you play to Crystal Maiden's strength and build a deck around her, she is incredibly powerful. So I'd actually put her at A.
You put Crystal Maiden at A. Okay.
I would.
You know what, I'm going to beat you in the middle. Let's just go a B. Let's go half and half. We're making a
All right.
compromise here. You definitely you wouldn't be able to mono her. You wouldn't just be able to splash, not mono, sorry, splash her. You can't splash Crystal Maiden. And even in a 3-2, if you've only got 2 blue heroes, you really need big impact from both of those rather than one that enables the other.
If you just build your deck around giving her defensive options, then you can overcome her strengths, her weaknesses quite easily, I would say.
Okay, well, let's move on to a hero that's got a few more strengths in my opinion, but I'm going to let you choose where we're starting with this one. Hit me up with Earthshaker.
Earthshaker, I think, would probably be A+. There's just not much wrong with him. First of all, his passive is strong. It's real strong. I mean, it's slow. It's a 4-turn cooldown. But being able to stun heroes in a cone in front of you, the 3 things in front of you, is so massive because it stops damage, which blue likes to do, of course. It stuns, which also silences. So like if you've got 2 enemy heroes in a lane and you've got initiative and you plop Earthshaker down in front of them and you spend your initiative to stun them, you can silence those 2 heroes, shut down all their mana late game, and set up for a really swingy turn. And on top of that, Echo Slam is really, really strong. At the moment, he's got like potentially the strongest AoE spell in the game. Makes him just like an all-around, in my opinion, really strong, solid pick for blue. At the moment, I think if I made a blue deck, he'd be sort of an auto include.
So let's go on with the next one. Farvan, or however people want to pronounce him. Farvan the Dreamer, I think his full name is.
I was just going to say, first off, I think we can all agree that the 4 creep heroes are baddies.
Yeah. I think we can agree with that one.
That being said, I feel like Farvan is not the worst of the baddies. I don't think I would put him in C. Maybe like high D, just because he doesn't do a lot, right? He's defensive, he's got health, he's got block, but I do think I could maybe see him in an actual constructed deck, but probably not.
I think possibly. And his creep is pretty good too. Like a 0/8 is pretty decent, and his own stats.
4 mana.
His own stats
It's
are pretty
4
good
mana,
as well.
right?
Yeah, it's 4 mana. Yeah, Prowler Vanguard, which also gives allied neighbors +1 armor, which because you're casting it, you usually have a hero next to it, right? That's +1 armor for your green hero, which could be something like a Rix, which really needs help in that department, or Farvan himself, or Lycan. Like they just help buff up these things. So I think I definitely don't think D. He's definitely not A. I'm debating B or C. I'll leave it up to you. B or C. Where do you want to put Farvan?
Definitely not B. There's no way he's as good as Crystal Maiden. There's no way, man.
Into C you go, Farvan. All right, let's move on to the next one of our trash squad. Jamoy, or Jamai, or Jaboy, or wherever we're calling him now. I'm gonna just put him down here. Do you disagree?
Can we? I think we need to create an E tier for this dude.
All right, Jamoy, you had enough airtime now. Next, Keef the Bold.
Let me just say real quick about
go
this
for
dude. Not only is his passive not that great because card draw is plentiful in Artifact, but on top of that, his premier spell, while not bad, is already oversaturated in blue. You don't need battlefield control when you've got, Ventriloquy
and Cunning Plan, which are just both better versions of it.
Right, so what do you need him for? What do you need him for? The thing he's supposed to be doing well, the default cards already do better than him, so forget it, man. He's just, like, maybe Z tier.
All right, moving on to Baby Axe, Keef. Where do you want to put our little wannabe Axe man?
Keef the Bad, I would put Keef the Bad right down there with Jamoy.
You'd put him down with
He's
Jamoy?
got a decent body, but his spell sucks so bad. His spell is, I think actually probably, I'd have to look, but off the top of my head, I think his spell is probably the worst spell in the game, the premier spell in the game.
Worst premier spell in the game?
I think so, yeah.
You know what, potentially. I'm struggling to think of a worse premier spell off the top of my head.
It's 5 mana! It's 5 mana! If you put him up against Magnus, his spell, his premier spell, or Ursa, his premier spell, it's complete no contest between,
and it costs
those
more.
Two. Right. So just his spell's way too bad. If it was like 4 mana or 3 mana, he'd be way higher, but just it's too expensive. And there are other heroes who modify with permanent buffs way better than he does.
Definitely. Well, speaking with much better heroes, Legion Commander. Now, I'm going to let you put it because I'm excited for her. I think she's great. But where do you want to put Legion Commander and why?
Solidly S. Solidly S.
Good.
She is, in my opinion, the strongest red hero in the game.
In my opinion, she's the strongest hero in the game, hands down.
Oh, really?
Duel is so good. Duel is a better Berserker's Call that costs 2 freaking mana. You can set up for it and then use it, or you can use it and then take advantage of the fact that there's no enemy hero left and play more spells because it only costs 2 mana.
So the thing about Legion Commander is, while her stats aren't quite as massive as a lot of the other red heroes, the nice thing is that her spell pairs exceptionally well with those slightly beefier red heroes like Axe or Bristleback. And Duel is the only red card in a game that allows a red hero to deal with a card that is not an enemy neighbor. Is that correct?
Pretty much. I don't think red has much mobility at all. So you need to look at items or you need to look at Duel.
Right. And it's 2 mana. It's a red hero versus, your opponent. So it's like kill spell potential. It's essentially a 2 mana kill spell with a cost. Duel's just always going to be useful now, forever in the future. It's never going to be bad. Legion Commander is never going to be bad.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that one. So speaking of someone that is currently good, but I don't know how good they're going to be forever, Luna. Now, I have Luna as a solid A because yes, Eclipse is really, really good. But Luna herself is rubbish. Her ability is literally just there to buff Eclipse. And it's really hard to buff Eclipse, especially in this PAX meta where everything was just killing her outright. So I put her in A. I don't know if you disagree.
It's hard to place her higher because Eclipse, while quite strong, is very, very random. So you can't really rely on it. But she's got, I think, the strongest blue body. Is that right?
Joint strongest. Jamoy also has A health. The only thing he's got going for him.
Right, so she can arm wrestle Jamoy, but past that, she wants to be tough. You want her to survive, and her stats are allocated in a way that she's tough, she sticks around, her passive's bad, and Eclipse is quite strong and not too expensive, but it's slightly sort of limited by the fact that it's just super, super random. So I think she's, kind of solidly A.
Okay, well, another hero that I put in A, but I think you might disagree with, is Lycan. Where do you want to put Lycan?
I think I'd put him in A+, actually. He's, his passive's okay, not bad. His body's respectable, but Savage Wolf, man, those things are beasts in every sense of the word. Savage Wolf is kind of one of those cards where you have to deal with it the turn it comes out, and if you don't, you miss your chance. And at 4 mana, there's so few options that a lot of decks have to deal with a Savage Wolf that they just miss the train on it. So turn 3 goes by, no one casting spells. Turn 4, you play a Savage Wolf in 1, maybe 2 lanes, ideally, and unless you get lucky and you have a duel or a new orders or something like that to take him out, then the wolf just gets too big and it's well, I guess this is my life now. I just have to let this wolf bite my leg for the rest of this game, and that's just what you have to deal with.
Okay, I'm gonna concede with this. I originally had him in A because in my head Savage Wolf isn't that bad because you just kill him turn 1. But you're right, in PAX meta it was really hard to kill him turn 1. However, even just with the cards we know already from outside of PAX, it looks like it's going to be a bit easier to deal with that. So I think A+ for Lycan, like you said, respectable body, pretty decent passive as well, especially alongside the Savage Wolf. So A+ for him. Necrophos, though, I think is probably a solid A. I don't think he was bad, but I don't really think he was good either. I think there were really good ways to utilize him. If Sadist got out of control, then he basically becomes the only black hero that can definitely stay alive to cast your big black spells. But other than that, I don't really see him having too much use. So I put him in A, and we've just released our hero preview for Necrophos. So if you want to see some more information about him, go check that out. But Dab, what do you think about Necrophos?
The thing I like about Necrophos is he sort of helps black do what it wants to do, because black seems to be kind of keen on burning your way through the lane to open up an empty slot to get in some tower damage. So you could put Heartstopper Aura on someone like Salih Khan to help Salih Khan just sort of charge through and hit the tower. So I really like his pro-black synergy. He helps his color do what the color wants to do. I agree. I'd put him in A, kind of like average. He's decent.
He is. He's like the epitome of an average hero. He helps his own color do better, and he himself isn't useless. Cough, cough, says Crystal Maiden.
Right.
But this next hero, is not useless, and I think I've got an idea of where you're going to put her. I put her as an A because I put her as an A+. Because I don't really rate her, but I really like her ability. She's a great hero killer. She's got good stats. And Coup de Grace I thought was overrated, but good. But I think you've got another opinion.
Let me ask you a question, Devik. Can you like of all the different decks, like control, aggro, whatever, can you tell me which decks would not benefit from hero kill? I think in general, hero kill is probably one of the most valuable things in the game.
Definitely, and that's what makes those blue decks strong. Like they're great hero killers. So I see what like hero kill is definitely good.
The defensive items in this game are so powerful, and the defensive spells from things like Hand of God and Divine Purpose are so swingy and powerful that blue, while they do a lot of damage, sure, can sometimes just be like, wow, that thing is so big. It would cost me like 3 or 4 spells to kill it. Whereas Phantom Assassin, 1 card, play it, kill the guy. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. So just, she does one thing. She kills heroes. She kills heroes with her passive. She kills heroes with her spell. And hero kill is one of the most useful things in Artifact because it shuts down the opponent from playing spells. And just the fact that she does that so well, better than everyone else, makes me think that she's S. I think she's the strongest hero in the PAX, in my opinion.
I'm okay with putting her in S. I think from the outside looking in, coup de grace wasn't actually that strong, but I think when you're actually playing the game, you're probably constantly thinking, oh, but I could just be coup de grace and the game's over. So I'm definitely happy with putting her there. Pugna. I think Pugna he would be situational because he's all about killing those enemy improvements, and he's also good at countering lots of spell use, but he's also got a pretty decent body, and the fact that he's specialized in 2 different things, I think actually makes him more of an A, because he's more versatile than specialized, I would say.
So my issue with Pugna is I feel like there's going to be plenty of games where you don't get any mileage out of your passive, and you don't get virtually any mileage out of his spells. I feel like, however, he could be really well suited in a really aggressive deck that has red in it, and like either as a splash or as a solid color. I could imagine you having sort of like a Salih Khan deck or any sort of single lane rush deck where you're just like stacking tons and tons of assault ladders in a lane. And then you also put the Nether Ward in the lane as well, so that in order for the opponent to deal with your lane, it's going to punish them even more. And also, he's sort of influenced by the meta, right? If improvements are really big, he becomes more popular. Yeah, I think A is a little bit high. He's just too situational. I'd probably put him at B. Like really with Crystal Maiden, right? Crystal Maiden is really heavily influenced by what deck you're running. I think Pugna is in the same situation.
Personally, I'm going to stick with Pugna in A because that's a really good contrast with Crystal Maiden. But he has like twice her stats, and he's good against 2 scenarios rather than just being good in 1. So I'm going to stick with my Pugna in A. Obviously, you can put him in B. Maybe we need an A- or a B+ or something where we can put Pugna. And we might also want to put this next hero there. I think probably hands down the best of the basic heroes. I want to put Riley in A because she's a mini Phantom Assassin basically, and Phantom Assassin is an S, but she is a basic hero. Her premier card kind of sucks. Dab, what do you think about Riley?
I'm really unimpressed with her because she has the same problem with Jamoy in that the thing that she does, the rest of Black already does better. Like, do you want to push a tower? Get Salih Khan, don't get Debbie. Do you want to kill heroes? Get Phantom Assassin, don't get Debbie. Do you want direct damage? Get Pick Off and Raising Shot. Those both go to any lane, whereas No Accident, I believe, doesn't, right?
No Accident is in your lane only.
So everyone else does her job better. Whatever you want to do with Black, do it with these other cards. Don't do it with her. I'd put her in D.
In D? Wow. I'm going to up that to a C. I'm going to take the lower end of the average of ours because I do think like she does have enough damage to really be a threat to a lot of the heroes out there. Like I said, hero kill can't really be stressed enough how good it is, and she effectively has 9 damage against heroes, which kills like 90% of the heroes you see on screen right now. So I'm going to put her at C. Okay, 3 heroes left, and I think they're all pretty decent, and I think we actually disagree about 2 of them at least. Rix is the first one up. I think Rix is overrated. I think Rix is A. You don't. Tell me why Rix is better than an A.
That's average? No, yeah. Dude.
Okay, let me explain a little bit of the logic here first. His premier card, I think when I was watching PAX, I thought his premier card was underutilized and underused. But thinking back on it, you have to have the initiative going into it to be able to silence the enemy and stop them from casting, which you then end up losing the initiative in the next lane. So you lose initiative in 2 lanes to gain this advantage in 1. On top of that, you're spending 5 mana to stop them casting a card, and then you haven't got any mana left to do anything with because that was 5 of your mana. So I think his premier card is actually pretty rubbish. That the concept is amazing, but I think just the way it works is kind of rubbish. And at the end of the day, he still does feed gold. he has a lot of low health. There will be players out there that will punish you for feeding Ricks.
Right. I'll agree that his spell isn't the strongest spell in the world, but at the end of the day, he's sticky. And if you look at, any other card game, Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, it tends to be the case that cards that are really sticky, things like Hearthstone has Death Rattle, so you kill them, and then there's an effect afterwards, like they put another creature on the board, are incredibly popular because they're just so hard to deal with. And Rix is a hero who's going to be on the board every single turn. He is by far the best target for every single 25 gold, like super powerful item, because you put your Apotheosis Blade on him and the opponent has to deal with Apotheosis Blade swinging on them every single turn. Sure, he feeds gold. He does feed gold. I will agree with that. And that's going to sting against, econ ramp decks. But just in general, having this basic effect on a hero, comes back every single turn, gives you the flexibility to put him, redeploy him wherever you want, to have a spell cast in any lane. It's just, in my opinion, incredibly strong. I would put him probably at S. In the PAX meta, maybe like A+.
Okay, well, I'm happy moving him up to A+.
I'm just imagining a Rix with a 25 gold item and just him being a complete nightmare,
Oh, speaking of nightmares, not necessarily in the late game, but definitely in the early game, Salih Khan is our next hero. I personally don't rate Salih Khan that high. I wanted to put her in B or C because I think you can just deal with her so well, but I saw far too many wins from just like throwing 3 assault ladders in a lane on the final turn and just destroying the tower. So I actually am going to put her in A. I don't know whether or not you agree with that sentiment.
So when I first saw Salih Khan, I'm a control player. I like slow decks. I like killing enemy stuff and having my own stuff survive. So when I saw Salih Khan, I was like, wow, this card's bad. Like, it's just aggro face rush. Like, why would you care so much? Like, plus it could be blocked. Like, what's the big deal? And then I went to the tournament and I saw her win games. Not just winning lanes, but winning like against ancients. I think the only time I ever saw people take down ancients. The thing I like about Salih Khan is that she enables a style of deck that, from what I've seen from every other hero, they don't really enable. Basically, every deck that I saw at PAX wanted to win 2 lanes. Salih Khan wants to win 1 lane all the way through to the Ancient. I really like heroes and cards that enable you to play a certain type of deck. That's why I like Crystal Maiden, is she has a very unique and pronounced effect that enables you to play a certain style of deck that like chain gun spells. Same thing with Salih Khan. I like that she enables a single lane rush the Ancient deck.
Which is a bit of a contrast to our next and final hero, which I think will be quite a stable and maybe even staple hero for a while, the God of Thunder himself, Zeus. Where do you want Zeus to go?
Zeus, I'd put in A+. I feel like if you're gonna like advertise this game artifact to gamers out there, and you want to like put something in front of people to be like, look at the cool thing you can do, you start with Thunder God's Wrath and Zeus. He's just one of those heroes. Like, you look at him and you're like, oh, he's cool. Like, your card art's cool, and you like zap people when you cast spells. That's also neat. And then you look at Thunder God's Wrath and you're like, oh my god. I think that's what everyone thought the first time they saw Thunder God's Wrath, which is, oh my god, look at this card. It's so cool. It's so flashy. It's so powerful. It's so big. I just like Zeus. He's a little bit weak to really like big, heavy, tough heroes like red decks and Axe, because they just have so much health they kind of don't care. So I like him. I'd say he's probably either an A or A+. I'd defer to you on this one. He just, but he's fun, man. He's fun. I love Zeus.
Yeah,
Zeus
he is. He does look really fun. I can't wait to get my hands on Zeus. I kind of want to put him in A because I think his passive is a little underwhelming, although it is piercing, so it is like it's confirmed damage. But I'm going to put him in A+ just because of the fun factor. And that sums up our tier list. So thank you very much, Dab, for me going through this. Again, go in the description, hit up Dab's channel, throw him a subscribe, tell him you came from us. He'll wave back and smile politely and all that stuff. If you'd like to help us out, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell icon too, so you know every time we release a video. I have been Divok of the Artificers Guild, and I will see you next time.